Then what is your ugly point going to be initialized?
My ugly point is basically chatting around the Poby humanoid situation and Fnatic stuff in general. And I want to make this clear. This is not a hate thing about Poby. No problem there. But this decision is part of a wider thing about GMing that we've just been talking about general. And scouting and team building in LEC has been so bloody weird over the last couple of years.
Yes.
And this is one of those flagship moments for that, right? Grabs very candidly said everyone but bot lane is on the plate, on the docket to potentially get switched out in off-season. Things need to change. We've got issues with work. We've got issues with the team synergy. Stuff is going wrong. We're making changes. And the changes that made is humanoid is gone. Fine. I think a lot of people were asking for that after 4 years. But Poby is the guy you pick out of LCK Challenger. What? Is this just because, I don't know what the internal metrics were. I don't know what they got scouted. They might know something that I don't. And actually he comes in and we go, oh, damn, I was wrong. Great fit. And actually, we've already chatted about Razok potentially getting a chance to look more like Razok without the additional chefs in the kitchen. All of that is true. And it's clear it's not a hate thing about Poby. But he was okay in LCK Challenger. I watch the Atlas and Chronicler and all those guys co-stream that. I watch enough of that when I get the chance. And Poby was fine. He got a bit better. There was the fun time when he and Reckless were on the same squad and all of that stuff. But he was not a very special player. All the memes about him were more important because he was the greatest of some time. And they were making all those jokes. But the things that people know him for is the brand value. But it's a brand value of an LCK Challenger player. So why have you picked him up? Why is this the guy you've thrown your whole career, your whole trajectory of the year over, where Fnatic have won the regular season twice in a row and then foamed in playoffs? Poby's the guy you go to? What is going on in GMing? This is where you end up on. It's not even the best player out of Challenger League from the mid lane. You've got a whole ERL system behind you where I think for the longest time people have scouted ERLs incredibly poorly, basically because I think there's a whole thing with a lot of the teams that are doing well at EMEA Masters right now are teams like Lost Retones, who are content teams filled with exceptionally experienced players. And you've got Velia in there, of course, and Baus in there, of course, who are rookies in their own right with different aspirations, sure, but rookies. And they're doing really well. But that is a very different brand of team to someone like, okay, I'm looking for the next big thing. And I think that there is then this wider conversation about what is going on with GMing in EU. Why is this the move that we're seeing in the offseason for Fnatic who want to win the damn league? What is going on with scouting to ERLs? We've got an insane ERL system with loads of leagues to scout through, and this is where you ended up.
I mean, let's be clear as well. Fnatic should be favourites to go to Worlds, right? Yeah. With no change, right? And why is that? It's because G2 and Koi are coming into the season with no break, and they're either sacrificing the early season scrims, or they're going to be playing exhausted by the time they're in playoffs, right? So there is the top 40. We said last split there was a clear top 4 gap. You would be very shocked if both Koi and G2 went to Worlds, right? So Fnatic, starting from, it's not a level playing field at the start. KC and Fnatic are starting here, and G2 and Koi start here, right? So you have a natural advantage if you change nothing, right? So it's not like you have to fundamentally change everything now. You're starting from a big advantage just by doing literally nothing, okay? But let's have a little talk about how GMing in Europe works, because I think I saw a lot of this narrative about Poby, and I don't think it's quite correct, okay? Let's talk about how GMing because people say, oh, the scouting for the ERLs is off. You are 100% correct, but I don't think it's off purely on judging player skill. Right? Sure. So how does GMing work? Okay, so pre-agents. So the thing to realize is since 2020, 2021, leakers have become much more important in the scene. Agents have become much more important in the scene. The how things work behind the scene has fundamentally changed. Okay, so when I was recruiting rookies in 2019, 2020, I just go to a player and I say, this is our project, come and join the project. Right? Now you don't talk to the players anymore. You go and talk to the players' agents. Often they're the ones who are pitching players to you. And as soon as you, let's say, okay, so somebody who has a reputation for scouting players, I will go and scout a player, and then everyone in the league within 3 days will know that I want to talk to that player. Okay? And then they're thinking, holy shit, this is a player that some team that has respectable scouting thinks is good. We've got to go and sign this player. And they don't think, why is this player being scouted? It's because of the culture fit. It's because there's specific assets that you really, really value very, very highly in this player. Right? There's a fit in the team. There's something else like this in the team. Perfect example of this, Noskeren back in the day, right? Noskeren, really, really good fit on Splice, but he goes to another team, completely garbage fit on the other team, right? And it sucks for his career, But he was on a team where they were just like, oh, Noskeren went to the quarterfinals of Worlds, right? We have to go and sign this guy without thinking about the fit. And this is how the GMing works. GMing in Europe is not shit because people can't scout. Maybe they can't scout as well. It's because they have so little faith in their scouting.
The team building's poor.
Yeah, that their team building is poor. But the way that they're recruiting players is that there is a hive mind of things that because of how the scene has changed through leakers, and like a leaker comes to me and goes and says, oh, by the way, like I heard that you were interested in this guy, just so you know, these 4 other teams are interested in this guy. And like I don't really give a shit because I'm judging on my own look. But if this leaker is going to 4 other teams and saying, oh, by the way, did you know Heretics are trying to sign this guy? Then it tells you that teams aren't thinking. They're not thinking about why they want to go and recruit these players. They're not thinking about the fit. They're not thinking about the skill set. They're thinking this player has a really, really good reputation, so we're going to go and sign this guy that has a really, really good reputation purely for that. And that's where the problem is, right? It's like maybe Fnatic think Oman, or maybe they think Checolad has the potential to be good, but they know that it is less risky to go and sign a Korean because then you have a shield. You go and say, oh, cultural difference, language barrier,
right.
All of these things we couldn't prepare for, right? It's not our fault. Oh, we tried our best, but the culture fit didn't work, right? It's always about looking for a way out, right? Because if you go and sign Rika, you go and say, oh, we tried to sign Rika. This guy was the hottest prospect. 4 different teams wanted to sign Rika. It's not our fault. He just wasn't good enough. Oh, it sucks, right? But maybe those other teams, if Rika had gone to one of those other teams, he would be on a team that properly put the situation around him, and he can succeed. But that's not what the GMs are thinking. The GMs are thinking, oh, we have this scouting. Maybe we have this guy who's number 1 on our scouting list. But oh, number 3 on our scouting list. 4 other teams want to say, that's what this agent is telling me. That's what this leaker is telling me. We should go and sign this guy. Less risk to me.
I mean, and then you add that into the points we had earlier about, okay, so what happens if you don't perform well, you're kicked? So then you've got all these players who are coming in and have to change their playstyles, change who they are on short notice as a rookie, where you've not had chance to become a more well-rounded player.
Yeah.
At LEC level, at any rate. Yeah. And then you get kicked after a split or 2 splits, and you're feeling like, oh, my days is our last chance. And for players like Genox or Rika, they knew that if they messed this up, they were gone. Like, they're not getting another chance at LEC. And the moment it starts going wrong, it all falls apart. And then you took it like, okay, Nicky role swap. How is that going to work in this team? Well, it doesn't work as a squad. We've chatted about, okay, Paris, is he going to be the right fit there? Labrov on G2. It's taken a while for that to really work. And it's been a bit up and down. Again, fit stuff. And that has been a great issue with the undercut of if you don't work out, you're gone.
Yeah.
No,
go on. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, on the last thing, I'll pick it up at the end there. I also do agree that is probably the worst thing about GMing in the modern day. It's not even that they get the wrong player. They just get the wrong player for their team and the team they're building, which the reason why it's so crazy to me that this is like almost a Achilles heel of seemingly most of the LEC GMs is because you can't even avoid that problem in like professional football, which has like infinite money poured into it. Like anyone who follows more than just like the Premier League or La Liga or whatever, you will know it happens every single year. There are players who are amazing in one or the other league who go to the other league and are fucking shit. Spoiler, if you're a big Arsenal fan, you think it's amazing that Gyökeres guy signed. It wasn't that great when it wasn't that great when he was in the Premier League last time, mate. That's all I'm going to tell you. So you never know. Some people, obviously in football, it can be the pace, the position, what tactical system you use. But I think there's so much of that in league. Like I always tell people, one of the reasons why my home game of Counter-Strike is way easier to evaluate talent in is as long as generally I'm playing a similar spot. Yes, whether we win or lose the game might depend on my teammates, but I can generally play my game to a somewhat like consistent degree most teams I'm in. The difference is in games like League of Legends, you have to actually always be one entity. It's not really a jungler and a support. It's like, what's the synergy between them? When do they link up, etc.? And so there's so many complicated, nuanced team aspects that if you fuck it up like this and treat it like you were doing a fantasy draft and you were just trying to get the best player, but they're not in the same team, you just get their stats from all the games they play in the league, that you can't make a team like that in league. It's been tried too many times. Why most of the super teams fail. It's usually not even that it's a super team. That's actually the misnomer. It's usually that you made a super team of like famously like 3 carries and then they're all just like, give me all the resources. It's like there aren't enough fucking lanes in the game. Come on.
But this is why MKOI are the LEC champions, right? Because they're the ones doing the competent GM. Like the two teams that are doing the competent GMing job are MKOI and KC, right? Why KC? Because KC signed these guys when they're 15, 14, I don't know how old they are, right, in the KC 13, right? And then they bring them up through their system, and they're like, we will promote primarily from our system, okay? So it's harder for us to fuck it up. We're going to promote from our system.
Players, yeah.
Yeah, we know these players, okay? Number one. What do Koi do? Koi are like, okay, we're going to go and sign a coach. He has an overriding vision. He wants to go and sign these players that other teams think are shit. Frescowi, he wants Frescowi. He can have Frescowi. Some people will call it nepotism, but this is our system, right? Our scouting system is this coach's system over everything else, and it doesn't matter if our players are shit, because what we're going to do is we're going to gradually improve. And I say that this is the same thing on Splice. This was when I was there. It's the same idea. What is your coach's system? Get a player who's a specialist in your system. Kasing, I think, perfect example of somebody who the team wasn't 100% sure on, but was very good in that meta. Bring him in. If you need to adjust, make the adjustment. You can make an adjustment later, but you have your fundamental system in place. Make the adjustments. What have Koi done? They brought in Jojo to replace Frescowi. At some point, maybe they'll bring in somebody else in a different role, but they're patient. They know that things will take time, and they're going to go and promote within the system, but they're not going to overhaul things, right? At the worst case, Koi will have 4 of those 5 players next year, right? Like that they currently have. They're not going to overhaul things. So they have competent GM, and they don't give a fuck that everyone thinks Frescowi is garbage. They're going to find a way to make him work, right? Okay, those 2 teams, competent GMing. Okay, let's go over everyone else in the league, and I'm going to be as fast as I can because I know you have to leave reasonably soon. G2, we promoted a rookie jungler. That rookie jungler was playing with Nicky, who's one of the best supports in the league. Oh, but no, we're going to just promote another rookie jungler who we think is really, really good. We don't really care about the fit. Oh, but the most important position for jungle is jungle support, so we're going to change our support as well. These two have never played together. Oh, but it worked once for us in the past because we brought in Mickey, and Mickey and Yike came in at the same time, so Skewmon and Lavrov can come in at the same time. It's for sure going to work. No, of course, it's not going to work, right? If you wanted to bring in Skewmon, keep Mickey. If you wanted to bring in Lavrov, keep Yike, right? Like, just don't fundamentally change. This is a roster move that Koi would never have made, right? And that's why Koi are the champions, right? Fnatic. Okay, well, let's come back to Fnatic later. GX. Okay, GX didn't make any changes. I don't have too much to comment about. GX Heretics kept their roster together. Get a good job. We've talked about SK, but let's talk about BDS. BDS looks like they're going to be a roster which is built around their coach's vision. But then you sign 113. You are the guy who signed 113 when the rest of the community told you 113 wasn't that good. You kicked Shio to sign 113. Shio, who was a top half jungler in the league at his worst and was a top 2 jungler in the league at his best, and took you to Worlds, despite what people say about Adam. He took you to Worlds. Sure, you lost in the 3rd, 4th playoff against NA, but he took you there, right? And you're less than a year later, he's gone for fucking 113, okay? So you think 113 is your guy? Gone within a year, okay? You think Irrelevant was your guy? We didn't even talk about Irrelevant. Holy shit. Okay, I give them some leeway on the Irrelevant thing. He was pretty hacked, right? But the 113 thing isn't. We talk about Rogue. But these teams are the teams that need to take gambles, but they're not thinking long term. If you want to gamble, you have to think long term. And how do you go and establish things long term? It's you build yourself up as somewhere where players can go to, right? And sure, if you need to be a feeder club for a few years, be a feeder club for a few years. You know, it's not the end of the world, right? If people think, oh, I'm going to go to SK and then I'll be really successful and then I can move on to G2 in the future, fine. Do that for a few years until you've established yourself. You're signing all the best rookies, and then you can go and do that in the future. But you need to have a good long-term plan. But the problem that we see with a lot of these things is it's a fundamental change without a long-term plan. And this bothers me a lot, right? About how the GMing works. And I don't think, sure, we flamed SK a lot, justifiably, but the teams at the bottom of the league, they have to gamble, right? And they're going to gamble on Koreans a lot because Koreans are cheaper than the hype rookies because of how the current system works. Again, you have a rookie, that agent has gone and pitched the rookie to every single team he possibly can, and is going to each of those teams and saying 4 other teams are interested, drives the price up. You go and sign a Korean rookie, maybe 1 other team is interested, maybe no other team is interested. You sign that guy for very, very cheap. So I don't like it. I don't like that ERL players are missing out on opportunities because Koreans are coming in, but it's cheaper to sign Koreans. It's considered lower risk. And that's why so many Koreans are getting signed right now on the lower teams, because it's a budget issue, right? Because you can't afford to compete with the
buyout. Yeah, the buyouts.
Exactly. But the teams that I can shit on are the teams that have the budget, right? Fnatic have the budget. They built a team. Where their personality clash. I'm not going to go behind the scenes stuff, but there's personality mismatches between the players, and they did nothing to fix it for multiple years. The one split where they were really, really good, they brought in a performance coach. He was gone by the end of the split. Right? So they didn't put this in place, and now their solution is the fans really don't like Humanoid because he doesn't kiss the badge, and like he has this persona that he doesn't give a shit. Like he gives a shit. Like he just has a weird way.
He just pretends not to sometimes. Yeah.
He's like too cool for to get. It's just a computer game. I don't give a shit. But you
doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah. When you go and question this guy about a random LPL game that was being played 2 weeks ago. And he knows, he knows everything. He can tell you all of these little things. And, maybe if he's not doing that on Fnatic anymore, maybe that's on Fnatic. Because I'm telling you, I know him for multiple years on Splice and Mad Lions, and so does Mac. And that humanoid is not the humanoid that Fnatic are described, like the guy that doesn't give a shit about working, all of these things, is not the same guy. He still hates solo queue. He always fucking hated solo queue, right? But he did other things to make up for that, and maybe he's not doing that on Fnatic, okay? But this is, sorry, I'm ranting too much. I'm going to bring my point to a close soon. But the point is that it's not about, you brought in Humanoid because Humanoid won 2 championships in a row, and then you didn't have a Kazi on your team, right? Right? Because Humanoid is successful because he's very, very aggressive, and he's very harsh, but then you have somebody who's a bit of a clown, who lifts up the atmosphere, who's like, yeah, exactly. And that is... Fnatic have the budget to do more. They just don't, like the way Fnatic goes, they just literally only look at player skill within the context of an individual team or solo queue. They don't look at how the player fits into the team, and it's always been this way with Fnatic. Even when Fnatic was successful, the Fnatic way was always bringing the most mechanically gifted player we possibly can every single time and flip that it will work. And it doesn't work anymore in EU because they don't have caps anymore. Secondly, they can't just take all the best ERL talent anymore because it's competed for by a lot of teams, and they haven't adjusted their strategy for multiple years. So Nemesis is the best ERL mid laner, but there's no fucking way he's going to Fnatic after how they treated him last time he was there, right? The decisions you make in the now have long-term consequences. And, maybe if Fnatic were a better org in 2020, they would have Nemesis this year. And then we would be talking about how fucking good their team is and how they can compete for a title. But they don't have any options in Europe anymore. The top talent is already being signed by orgs like Koi and KC and G2 at a stretch, right? So now they have to go overseas. They're in the middle of the year. They have to go and make a change. And how they ended up at Poby, he's cheap. I mean, he's not humanoid. So the fans are good. And now you just have, in the past, Fnatic fans would be insufferable because they would always be like, oh, we're going to win title. Now I look at Fnatic fans and they're just like, oh, we just want people to be wrong about Poby. It's not even about being a title. Like if Poby plays well, this team doesn't go to Worlds, I think Fnatic fans may be okay with that from what I've seen online. But it just shows Fnatic are an org that we should be harsh on because they have the resources to do better. Right, and they just don't, because how does recruitment work? It works by how many people are interested. And sorry for my rant. I hand over the floor back to you.
I'll make it quick then. There's 2 points to go still. So the quick version is this. That's why I said earlier, I do think if you look at the playoffs, it's not just because they won. MCOY was the best team in the most literal sense of team. Like, gelled as a unit, played around the same style, everyone knew their job, streamlined their game, shot calling components exist. No other team could you say that for. Carmine Corp had their flaws, G2 actually still looks mega flawed, and the joke is Fnatic just destroyed themselves. Like, that really was. If you ever look at those 2 rosters on paper, right, before a game is played, if I show you the MCOY roster and the Fnatic roster should win every fucking time. If this was a video game with LS robots, they would win every single match. Yeah. But in real human terms, with all the components that come in the team and intangibles, they actually are like fucking 3/4 as good in a playoff match. So that's real, that's legit. And then I would quickly say on the actual Poby humanoid thing, I haven't got time to do a big rant, but I've done it on all the shows, don't worry. The problem is I heard behind the scenes that humanoid is the person who who sort of doesn't really give that much of a fuck this specific year in this specific team. Now, I'm sorry, I actually still put that on Fnatic largely, because that's not a 5-minute over a coffee conversation in the off season. That's a massive conversation that should be ongoing the whole off season of like, if you come back for this next year, you are in for the whole year. We are committing that we are going to try and win the split and go to Worlds. There's no like, oh, I'm tapped out after spring. That can't exist. Look, I can blame Humanoid for that, but I would also say it wasn't his first year in your team. Why are you letting him do that choice? Why are you giving him the power to make that happen? And then once he's gone, you aren't going to get anyone for summer. And you know what? You know what's weird? I actually will shade in the tiniest bit of hopium, not copium, hopium, which is, I actually do think like the Razork point. There's a weird world where the real problem with this topic, by the way, is everyone's still thinking about when Poby played instead of Faker, which was really bad, and their entire team collapsed, and it was all shit. So they're thinking he's going to be really bad, and the whole team's going to collapse. I don't even think that'll happen in LEC. I think in LEC, he'll just be an average mid laner. He won't be a really good, he won't be really bad. He'll just be like the 5th best mid laner. He'll probably play quite a conservative style because he's a Korean guy coming in. He doesn't know anything about the space. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He's just going to come in and do his job, what the coaches tell him. And in a fucked up sense, I actually think that Fnatic was one of the worst, like too many chefs in the kitchen. And I could actually see a world where this guy not talking and just playing a boring, safe game could actually, like, listen, I don't think he can ever hit the heights of what the humanoid lineup should have done, which has been number one. But I think he actually could potentially be better in the playoffs than last splits. Yeah. As mad as that sounds, because it might actually mean now, like I say, not just Razork, Mickey X, but if you're upset, you're the one carrying the team, mate. Just get ready. Like, this is the team you've been waiting for the whole time. There's no short circuit. There's no guy to disagree. In theory, now everyone actually gets exposed or shown to be for what they are. So if there was any weird humanoid effect, it's gone now. Like, that excuse is gone. So I don't think it's a bad one. Right? We obviously only have a little bit of time, so let's make the other points quickly, shall we?
I just got one more point I really want to make about this, okay? Which is, firstly, some positives on the Fnatic thing, right? Number one, good job for Grabs. Something I've always flamed people for is the decision-making not being really, really clear, right? You know, do we blame the GM for this? Who's making the roster? Grabs has come out specifically and taken ownership of this. And he said, this is my decision, right? And as a coach, you never have to do that. You never have to do that. So he is the one. If Poby is a great success, credit to Grabs. If he's a failure, don't blame Grabs. He's a nice guy, but like we know where the decision making comes from. Second thing is Poby. The way that Fnatic want to play is very similar to how T1 challengers play, which is their bot lane is super, super cracked. Like, Poby's job is literally sit there in mid lane, just push the wave if the enemy mid laner roams. They have a mega hyperactive jungle and a really, really good bot lane, and that is, in theory, how Fnatic want to go and play the game, so it could be a good fit, right? My issue with this is not that I don't think he's that good, right? I think he's inoffensive, right? I don't think he's going to like drag Fnatic to 6th or something in the league. My issue with this is you never gave the humanoid project the chance to work, because you knew there was going to be personality clashes, and you never put the performance coach that was required in order to make those personality clashes work properly, right? And you killed the motivation of this guy who is a motivated player but just pretends not to be motivated. But now I think that he's acting not motivated, right? So we just leave that to one side. But that was my final thought. So do you have any final thoughts on that in this place before?
We haven't got time for that. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. My points are out. It's fine.
I love to talk. I love to talk too much. I'm
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.